I've heard so many horror stories, so much to where, like, you know, we hear a little bit of horror stories, but like, I mean, she would come back from court and she would show us pictures, I mean, of people like literally like just giant, not even bald spots, but like, you know, when burn victims, they have that like wrinkly kind of skin because they have to get skin grafted and stuff like that on people's scalps. So
this is serious.
This is absolutely so serious. Yeah. And, you know, there's going to be people who are licensed to do this. I get it.
Yeah.
But right, but
regulated.
It's regulated. And then the thing is that enough of us remember the education that we know exactly what the problems are, right? And you know, especially when you can prove that this person is licensed and this person has gone through continual education and this person has renewed their license every 2 years, we can be like, you were educated, this is malpractice, this is a problem and you need to be.
Yes, because you should have known better.
Right. But when we deregulate or we reduce hours to the point where it's just like, all right, we're going to give you a little booklet. It's going to be this, and this. Then we're going to teach you a bunch of haircuts, and then you'll be off on your way. This is what happens, right? Because people, you know, can memorize a little booklet and take a test and, you know, and pass with flying colors and then immediately leave their brain, right? After that. So it is extremely, extremely important that we keep those hours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beauty Bound. I am your host, Cristal Rubio, owner of Beauty Pro Bookkeeping, and you can follow me at Beauty Pro Bookkeeping on Instagram and Beauty Bound TX on Instagram. But today, y'all, she is back for the third time, but because we have such a freaking great topic, like as soon as I found out about this, I was like, Amy, like. I move things around for my day. Like, you moved your clients.
I sure did.
But first of all, if you're new here, let's let her introduce herself first.
Yes. Hi, I'm Amy. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Hair by Amy W. And basically what I do is I just make sure that I do little bits of education, small things with big impact. And, you know, I do a lot of funny videos to make everybody laugh. But it's definitely geared towards more hairstylists and education than anything. But I have a lot of fun with it.
Yes. And today, do we have a topic, man? First of all, I am going to say this because it's going to end up being about, you know, a chain salon. It is going to be, so people who work at Great Clips, Sports Clips, you know, people came after me last time, but I don't care. Like, I wasn't making fun of anybody. But I think once you guys hear all of this, I think you'll see everything in a different light. So we were talking.
Yes.
There's a Instagram reel and TikTok and everywhere.
Yes.
That is going around about a legislation trying to pass in Idaho, I believe, is the state, or Iowa. Idaho.
Yes, I think it's Iowa.
Iowa, yes. So what this legislation is trying to do is trying to lower the hours for beauty school to 1,000 hours. Although there's a lot of maybe people who want to do Cosmo, they're probably like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. But us as seasoned hairstylists, we think that's a freaking horrible idea.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I you know what? I think a lot of states have actually been trying to do this for a while, but I think the reason why this gained so much traction and it went viral is because of the insulting remarks of the, I'm not sure who
I'm like legislative.
But like legislative man.
Yeah, the one that we could probably learn his job on ChatGPT.
Listen, we're not part of like politics or government. No. We're hairstylists, but like seriously. But what he said was that his 15-year-old can basically do what we do, and why do we have to have the hours? And that was just the most insulting thing. And I think that's why everybody is, you know, being keyboard warriors and really trying to say like, hey, listen, we have very important jobs, and what we do is not just painting nails and brushing hair. It has to do with so much more. And, you know, in a previous podcast that we did, I talked about how beauty school is about the basics, right? Like we learn how to do the basic cuts. We learn how to, you know, make sure we paint the nails and things like that. But most of all, what beauty school is about is infection control, right?
Yes.
So that is what he is missing in this entire thing, is that, you know, I'm sure that 15-year-old isn't sanitizing her equipment.
No.
You know, yeah.
Girl. I'm a girl.
Right? If she's doing her cousin and her mom, and she's
the same freaking makeup brush, the same freaking cuticle nippers without cleaning them, the same everything. Like, what the freak are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
and you know what? That's fine. If she wants to play like hair school and she gives a little infection to somebody, that's fine. But as professionals, we need to really let people know exactly what we do.
Yes, you need, and because you need the anatomy, not just of when you're doing facials, but also the scalp. You need to know exactly what you're putting on that scalp, on that face, on your hands, chemical burns. There's so many things that could go wrong with this.
Yes.
And one of the things that I kind of just touched on it a little bit. One of the things that was just found out, or that was just kind of disclosed, was that Sports Clips is behind all this. They're lobbying for in every state, because if some of y'all don't know, the hours in Texas did get lowered.
Yes.
And we didn't even know when all this shit happened. And I think that's the scariest part.
Yep.
That legislative, whatever you want to call it, thing, bill, I guess, went into effect, and none of us even knew about it.
Yeah.
We all of a sudden just saw that the hours got lowered.
Yep.
But we didn't know that there was ever a hearing for it.
Right.
Thank God for this lady. I can't remember her name right now, but who actually did something about it and is doing something about it in her state. But they're lobbying it because one of the things that's going to happen is, for them, if they pay money so that this could pass, then they could get students faster, because they, you know, Sports Clips is always like getting new people, and their turnover is very high. Yeah. So they're trying to get people to work for them. And
like Sports Clips?
Yeah. That's it. So the students come out, guess what? They're going to hire them fresh out of beauty school. They get them to work for them.
Yep.
They don't even give them a chance to want to go and do any other kind of hair, because one, they didn't even get taught much anymore because it's only 1,000 hours.
Right.
But then they'll be able to get them, they'll convince them that they don't need higher education or even anything higher than the 1,000 hours, because all they need to know how to do is hair cutting.
The basics.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
And then they pay them very low. So it is, that's what I was saying, you're like, you know, you were right on the dot with that.
Yeah.
Because it is that they're going to be paying them a lot less money now. Yeah. They're not going to have to pay them higher. And they could control the industry however they want and they please.
Yeah.
So
they're like lobbying for this.
Yeah. So they're the ones that are basically, if you guys don't know what lobbying is, this is when somebody who has some kind of interest behind a law or a legislative bill to go through, they're the ones that go in to all the whoever's doing all this, and they say, hey, we want this to pass. Here's some money. Let me donate some money towards your cost or whatever.
It creates more power on that side.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so adamant about, well, if my 15-year-old daughter, because go look at the money. How much money did they give him to be able to say this?
Well, like, because I didn't really know exactly what Sports Clips was doing. You did mention it when we, were going to go on this podcast. But I did a little research, right? And because I was actually really curious. I have never worked for Sports Clips. I do kind of know the basics of it. Usually what they do is they pay you hourly, right? And they pay you hourly, and that can raise a little bit on what's, how long you've been there. But basically they do incentives, bonuses. I think if you hit a certain commission rate, you can get a small percentage of commission and tips. And so with, the restaurant business does this a lot, right? Where, they rather pay you a small hourly rate and you're responsible for making that money. So really what they're doing is they're profiting off of, and that's why they're trying to churn and burn, right? So it's interesting to me that this particular franchise and I'm sure other ones just like it, when they churn and burn, right? So I just looked it up, 2 to 4 haircuts an hour.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do 1 haircut an hour and maybe like
that was me.
Like, I mean, like sometimes it's an hour and 30 depending on, because I do a lot of thick curly hair textured
and styling.
Yes, and it's like blowing out and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting how, do these people have 1,000 combs a day? Because how the heck are you actually sanitizing your equipment? How are you sanitizing your combs? How are you sanitizing your station in between when you only have 15 to 20 minutes?
I didn't even think about that.
To do that. So when you're deregulated and you don't have to get a license and sanitation isn't as important, they could probably fit another haircut in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing, at least, because it's all about, it's not that they want to give more people opportunities.
No, and that's what they're making it sound like.
No, it's not that. They're really wanting to deregulate so they can make more money.
Yes.
And especially when you aren't a licensed professional, and that's what, and we've already gotten something taken away where we're not professionals anymore. Like, even though we're licensed, like we're not categorized anymore.
Yeah.
So that's already, something that I'm a little feisty about.
Yeah.
But if you're not a licensed professional, guess what? You can pay them less.
Exactly.
So they're making more money, bringing in more haircuts, and they're paying them less.
Yeah, and then they're told that they have to do however many haircuts an hour or a day. In an hour, it's and I know that a lot of people also came for me because of that board.
Yes.
And the girl who was on, Ashley, she was explaining, she obviously worked there a few years ago.
Yeah.
So she was explaining exactly how things work, and people were like, that's not how it works. What people don't understand, these are franchises. People are going to work it however they want.
Correct.
And however it benefits the owner.
As long as they're reporting back to the head people, as long as they're making profit, they're going to leave them alone and keep, encouraging whatever they're doing.
Exactly.
I also looked up, so annually, an average sports clips stylist makes a little under $30,000 a year annually.
Dang, that's nothing.
That's not a lot. And what an average franchise owner makes is around $400,000 to $600,000 annually a year.
Doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're doing plenty.
Yes, but I'm
at
just
the same
saying,
time, it's like it is very, very different, right? And I'm, that, I need to actually look that up if it's net or gross pay.
Yeah.
But that's a huge difference.
That is.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if they have, as many stylists as they can, especially if they're working shorter shifts and then they have multiple stylists, within a day in that chair and they're churning and burning 4 to 5 haircuts an hour. I mean, they're making bank.
Because imagine how much, so 1,000 hours. So before I had to go, it was 14 months to finish my hours in California. So now that brings you to what, like maybe 9 months or 8 to 9 months?
I mean, I don't know how it fully breaks down as far as, because I know, like, if you're full-time, if you're part-time.
Yeah, so,
like,
and I was part-time.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, whatever. But the amount of time that you have to be in school is a lot less. That means that in their minds, they're like, well, if they get tired, I'll get someone new in 8 months. Because we're going to be giving all these incentives, all these sign-on bonuses, all these like, oh my gosh, you can make so much money. But in reality, you have stylists like yourself who's still behind a chair, who is making more than that,
Oh, yeah.
And
and I right now, the way it is, I totally, I mean, we don't want to be crapping on like
and it's
these
not
things, but it is definitely, this is where people start off.
Yes, it's really a starting point.
Right. It's really hard to make a career in this because the amount of haircuts that they require per hour, and again, what was her name, Ashley?
Yes.
What she was saying about the boards and things like that. It is a go environment, and people can get so burnt out. And then by the time they're so burnt out, sometimes they don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
And if they've only had so much education, I know like Great Clips and things like that, they do advertise that they do continual education.
Which I've heard from many of them that they actually continue to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good.
And so that's good, but that's probably only going to be geared towards those stylists and what they actually do, right? So they're going to give them continual education, not on advanced haircutting techniques, maybe, but they want to make sure that it is quick.
Yes.
They're going to give them this is, and I'm sorry, this is me assuming everything, right? But if I were a business owner and I was required to give continuous education and I need my stylist to be churning and burning, I'm not going to give them a super fancy technique that's going to take hours, right? No. I'm going to only give them something that is very straightforward, very, what's the word? Just very consistent on timing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be for individual. Because, for me, highlights, right? Gone other days are you get 10 foils for a partial and you get 20 foils for a
Fantastic
full.
Sam's. I remember that.
Right, exactly. And so, when you come to me, yes, my prices are a lot higher, but I'm not going to be counting the
how many foils,
right?
Yeah.
So, personalization is not going to be what they're prioritizing, at least.
And I know I did see one of the comments on one of my things on that same clip was that I think she said, well, she ended up averaging about $100 a haircut if she did the a la carte thing, so adding the blow dry, the styling and all that, but those are added on, and I understand that that's good. But at the same time, we're looking at the bigger picture of what the average is.
Right.
And again, it's not shitting on what you're doing because it's not. You guys are working just as hard or maybe even harder.
I think way harder.
Way harder.
For a lot less.
For a lot less, exactly. And it's not, and it's more of dude, we're trying to give you information on the things that you could do better and why we're so against this legislation that is trying to, again, in Texas, it already passed. I don't even know what it is that we can do to reverse that,
Right.
Obviously, that's something that we have to look into, but at least to make it stop in other states.
Right.
Because that's what's happening in Iowa. They're trying to stop it.
Well, and that's the whole thing is that, it starts with lowering hours and then they start with deregulation, right? And, and everybody on the outside is probably thinking, heck yeah, I can be a working professional. I can be behind the chair, almost like a waitressing job, right? But the problem is that if you don't understand infection control and exactly what we do, we go over, several days of blood spill protocol. If you accidentally nip somebody on the ear, if you're just taking paper towels and trying to dry them up without gloves, we go through protocol to make sure that, we're not spreading Hep C and HIV, right?
Yeah.
And then, if there's a sore on somebody's head, we know that we can't put on scalp bleach on there, right? Or if there's a sore on somebody's head, if we use a comb and then we use another comb on somebody else, we can actually spread that infection. Exactly. And we're talking about MRSA, we're talking about staph. It is huge for sanitation and just even cleaning brushes. A lot of people go through there and then sometimes they don't even do that. But can you imagine what people will do if they don't even learn that?
Exactly.
I bet you anything right now, those places are most likely probably getting hit with sanitation when TDLR and, I had it was Dora, I believe, in Texas and Denver.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think
it is Dora.
Dora.
It is,
Okay. Yeah. But those places come in and sometimes they're dressed, totally casually and they're just watching, and then you can get hit. Like if you don't clean your clippers and use clipper side in between, you can get fined up to $300. This actually just happened in a salon that I was in. Luckily I wasn't hit on anything. It's always terrifying when they come in, right? But apparently this gentleman that I was working with, he didn't clean his clippers properly before he put them away. And so that means, he could maybe clean them right before, but we are told that as soon as we're done, we have to clean everything. And that's true, because that clipper is going on scalp.
Which is why a lot of men end up with all those bumps on the back of their head. And they just think is because they have ingrowns or whatever. But that's not it. It's
unsanitized. You're putting bacteria into their follicles and everything like that. So it's really, really, really important. And, they would save more money if they're not getting docked on that stuff all the time. But when you are a high profits kind of place where you're paying, not only are they going to be paying people minimum, but so they're going to be making more money. They're going to be doing more haircuts, but they don't have to worry about all the hits.
Yeah.
Of like
and also understand, guys, what she's saying is this is what's going to happen with this legislation passing.
Yes.
It's not that you guys are already making, no, we're not, again, we're going back to the reason they're trying to do this is so that they could pay people less. It's so that they could get however many people in without having to worry about the sanitation. So like be very understanding of that.
Yeah.
Because it's the amount of, again, also for like nail techs. Okay. So they're low,
Yes.
If as a full cosmetologist, you can still do nails, you can still do facials, waxing, all this.
Yeah.
So let's say you're waxing, right? And you're not getting taught sanitation. And they double dip.
Ugh. Like, talk about a Brazilian. Hello.
Like that, this, literally, like.
Yep, that same exact one. Like,
if you don't get taught that, like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. Like, you're gonna double dip, and whoever's.
Yep. I'm gonna say it pubes.
Yeah.
Whoever's pubes.
Yeah.
That's
imagine.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gross. And that's what people don't think about.
No.
Like, the 15-year-old that this guy is saying about how she can do everything that we do. I'm sure she's not. Maybe she is.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you don't think about that stuff unless you've actually gone through training.
Yeah. Guess what? My daughter, she has her own waxing pot. Mm-hmm. They know they shouldn't be double dipping.
Yeah.
Do you think they listen?
No.
No, she's 17. She just turned 17.
Yeah.
And I walked into her room this week and she had like a little metal spatula and she's, her lip and then her lip.
Yep. Kids are dirty.
Yeah. And so, okay.
I got 3 of them, so I know.
And don't get me wrong, it's the beads that she pours them as soon as she pours more, but it's like, and this is for her personal use.
Personal use. Yeah.
That's fine. It's personal use. Whatever. It's not a big deal. She's using it on her own.
Yeah.
Cool. She cleanses it. At least she does all the steps prior to waxing her lip.
Yep.
But if my kid was to like tell her friends, "Oh, want me to wax you?" Like, that's gross. Yeah. Because that's her wax. That's her personal use, you know? So imagine that at a salon.
Right. Where you don't even know the person or anything like that. And like you're getting waxed in intimate areas.
Yeah.
And that's
all your vagina juices in there. Like,
no, it's true. It's true. And the craziness is that like you can absolutely, like, if you get an infection in somebody's nail bed, whether it's your toes or like you can literally lose fingernails permanently. We go through like, and it's so funny, like we go through so much biology.
Exactly.
In our training, right? Like, the amount of infections that I had to learn and what they look like and what we can treat and what we can't treat.
Yes.
It was so gross. But this is something that we had to do and we had to pass on.
Yes.
And it's
even
incredibly
the lice,
important.
like you can't, if you open up and there's lice, you cannot cut somebody's hair. You have to let them go.
Well, that's the whole thing too, is that like if you are
you
literally
not gonna get taught that?
If you're doing time,
are you
15
checking?
minutes, are you checking? Because the thing is that, and I even tell this to some of my clients when they like, ask about certain, like, they'll ask about lice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, do you remember me playing with your hair during a consultation for like 5 minminutes? I'm like literally parting through their hair. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like playing with it. I'm literally parting to see if you got some lice. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, dirty people have lice. No, they don't discriminate. Funny enough, they've even said, and there's back and forth on this, but like lice prefer clean hair.
Yeah.
And clean scalps because they can actually latch their eggs a little bit better on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I'm on. Like,
so, I'm also, my hair is, that's why I don't wash my hair every day, guys. Yes.
But, so we've been talking about, hair cutting. We've been talking about nails and everything like that. I mean, the biggest thing is chemical.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, my gosh.
So, what's absolutely crazy is...
I burn my own scalp. Not somebody else's.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care about mine. And that's, somebody else's, I'm like, I'm not going to go on your scalp with a 40. Yeah. On mine? Yeah. I have Mexican hair.
Girl, don't be telling a color specialist this.
I'm telling you. No. So, and I'll do it. But I'm also, the moment that if I start feeling anything, I wash that shit off.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm like a long time ago, I remember before I had a license.
Yeah.
Before I had a license, I actually burned my scalp pretty bad because I was like 40 an hour on my scalp. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And my scalp was so tender.
Yeah.
But nobody told me I couldn't do that because, well, they sell it at Sally's, so that means I can do it, right?
Yeah, they sell it at Sally's and it's,
They even sell 50.
I know. And by the way, if anybody's listening, 50 is not for scalp. It's really not even for foils. You can use that for balayaging on virgin dark hair. But then you know why they make 50, right?
No.
Wigs. That's why they do it. That's why they have 50 volume.
But again, they don't tell you that.
They don't tell you that. And then I don't even think they told us that.
I mean, they didn't either.
But, one thing is that you know my history about how I was a color specialist for so much crazy education for the Mastery Color program in Chicago, and the master colorist, the person who ran all of this, who had so much experience, she was actually a what do you call those people? She was an expert witness for malpractice court cases. So, if somebody melted off somebody's scalp with relaxer, or if somebody died, which it has happened, because somebody put bleach on the person's scalp and put them under heat, and it literally leached into their scalp and gave them blood poisoning. She died. Okay.
No way.
We're talking life and death, right? So she's the one who comes in and she testifies as an expert witness saying, this is what the protocol is. This is how they didn't align with that protocol. And this is why this happened because of this chemical reaction, right?
Oh my gosh.
I've heard so many horror stories, so much to where we hear a little bit of horror stories, but she would come back from court and she would show us pictures, of people literally just giant, not even bald spots, but when burn victims, they have that wrinkly kind of skin because they have to get skin grafted and stuff like that on people's scalps. So
this is serious.
This is absolutely so serious.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be people who are licensed to do this. I get it.
Yeah.
But
right, but regulated.
Right. It's regulated. And then the thing is that enough of us remember the education that we know exactly what the problems are. Right. And especially when you can prove that this person is licensed and this person has gone through continual education and this person has renewed their license every 2 years. we can be like, you were educated. This is malpractice. This is a problem and you need to be.
Yes, because you should have known better.
Right. But when we deregulate or we reduce hours to the point where it's just like, all right, we're going to give you a little booklet. It's going to be this, this, and this. Then we're going to teach you a bunch of haircuts, and then you'll be off on your way. This is what happens, right? Because people, can memorize a little booklet and take a test and, and pass with flying colors and then immediately leave their brain, right? After that. So it is extremely, extremely important that we keep those hours. What's crazy too is that everybody always talks about how European hairstylists are, the most amazing hairstylists and things like that. Well, they're educated differently.
They go to school for 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
I had a stylist here who, she is a salon owner here from Hairway to Heaven. She is German and she went to school in Germany for, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 years, but each year you learn something different and you don't move on until you learn that thing.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it worked for me at Art and Science. So I couldn't pass depositing demi until I formulated perfectly for that after so many clients. And then after that, I wasn't allowed to pass depositing permanent. I wasn't allowed to go into lifting permanent until I was able to formulate properly for depositing permanent. And, so some people it took a year and a half, some people took it 3 years, right? Yeah. But it's really based on your own, your own journey, right? And so that sounds very much like what I went through.
She had to come here and go to beauty school.
Yeah, that is, what's interesting is
she knows more than even beauty school instructors. Come on.
I know it. Yeah, I mean that's all about certain regulation policies, and she is probably yes, deregulate, so I didn't have to do that. But what's interesting is that every and every state is completely different, right? So I have gotten licensed in several states, and the first state that I got licensed in was Illinois, and now I need to remember. I think it was 1,600 hours, but there was a written exam. So, I mean, you would have to identify certain diseases and things like that.
Oh my gosh, for me, I got the nail ones, the O ones. I can't remember any of the names now.
Yeah.
But it was the awning, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what ones you can treat and which ones you can't.
Yes.
Because that's the whole thing is that some things we can actually touch with our instruments. Yes. And they look friggin' gross as hell, right? But then there's other things that look gross as hell too that we have to identify that we cannot do, right? So that's what's the craziest thing, and damaging, the pernickium or whatever.
Yes.
And it's so important. But in Illinois, I didn't have to do a practical, and so, I went on, and I did. Basically, and for those who don't know, practical exams. I mean, if you have mostly Texas listeners, they'll definitely know. But with practical exams, it is the act of actually doing it in front of proctors, and so
with a human, or did you do mannequin?
Well, I didn't do one.
So
I didn't do one at all, and then. Gosh, I didn't know.
I did it. Yes.
Oh man.
So I had to bring my own model to
we say humans
board.
Like we're bringing golden retrievers. Live models.
Live models. I know with the human.
It's my live model human didn't work. She actually is calling out. So here is my golden retriever. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I had to bring a live model.
Yeah, right. Oh my God.
And I was actually from my school, I was the last class that had to bring in an actual model.
And this is in
in
state testing?
Yeah, state test in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to do a practical. I was able to pass the exam and, go right into it. And I knew that I was not ready, right? And so that's when I decided to go into the art and science program. And you assist, for however long that you have to go through the program. So you are the one who sanitizes all of the stylist tools and the brushes and all that kind of stuff. So you learn, it's really like cranked into your head. But I'm talking like, Central Illinois and, Chicago is very much like, an educational salon. So it does make sense, why, like, okay, like how you can do well after that. But with like, Southern Illinois, where it's smaller towns and you go through it, those salons aren't going to be, super educational. You're just going to go right on the floor. Now, when I moved to Denver, even though I had been a stylist for several years and I've been licensed for several years, they require a practical.
No way.
Yes. So I had to relearn everything. And again, we're talking about all these, nail diseases and, facials and certain things like that.
And folding the little paper in triangles, right? For the facial?
Oh, yeah. Well,
like all these little
again, it's like all different. So we learned that in school, but we I never got tested in Illinois or Denver with that.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah. So basically basically you try to apply to every state whenever you move.
Yes.
And it's called license to reciprocity.
Yeah.
And basically it's where the reciprocity, I got that right. But it's where that state has to review the other state's requirements, and then they say, okay, you can get a license through reciprocity, or we're going to require you to do something else to get that. Some people, like if I'm coming from, again, this will affect us guys. If you're in Texas and then you move to Idaho, they are one of the highest hours. There.
Like 1,600, right?
No, it's like 2,300. I think.
Oh shit!
Or at least the last time, maybe they deregulated too.
I'm sure.
But like, if you go from 1,000 hours to Idaho and you've been a stylist for like 5 years, they might have you go back to school. This is what's so interesting about like every state, for regulation. So they were like, okay, you've obviously passed the written, you're good. You have to take the practical now. So keep in mind that I've just been a colorist this entire time.
Oh my gosh.
I have not been doing haircuts. I have not been doing nails. So I had to relearn all of that stuff to pass in that state. And, and I mentioned this in my last one, and this is my actual, because I had my husband do a practice with me, and I was just like, okay, you're going to be the proctor, and then you're going to tell me what to do. It had like this little practice thing of like how everything's grouped, and so he watched me do everything. I didn't really go through the motions if it was like perm rod set or something like that. But then, I was just like, okay, the next one. And then he was just like, you failed. And I was like, what do you mean I failed? And of course, this is my husband. Yeah. And so I'm getting angry with him, right? And he's just like, you didn't sanitize and zip up your bag every single one. And I was just like, he's just like, listen, you told me that like, and really that was the main thing.
Yeah.
And he actually figured out that, he looked up all the points. And I mentioned this in the last podcast that we talked about this, but if I failed each practical, like I messed up the perm rod set, I cut a chunk, out of my uniform haircut and, had sloppy artificial nails. They don't care about that stuff. It's all about sanitation. So if I would have just screwed up royally with all the services, but then I sanitized my station each in between and zipped up my bag, then boom, I'm a licensed hairstylist. So that is how it's so important with states, right? Because it is about infection control.
Yes.
And then so when I came down from Colorado to get licensed with Texas, I was able to get through reciprocity because I was able to do the written.
Yeah.
I was able to do the practical, and then, you know, and then of course I had my experience.
Yes.
But it's just,
yeah,
it's
to transfer, because to transfer my license from California to here.
And it was all mannequin heads, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, I think we had we had to bring a model, and I remember the first I was so nervous. I didn't check my blow dryer nozzle. And so when I was blow drying her hair, it freaking flew.
Oh my gosh.
And so you have to pick it up when you drop something. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I grabbed a tissue. I grabbed it and I put it away and zipped up the bag. Oh. And then I had to go wash my hands, because then we didn't have the little hand set. No, you had to go and wash your hands at the sink. Mm-hmm. And then you had to do it for the 20 seconds. Make sure you got under your nails.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. That whole time. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And that was like my first thing, and I messed it up, you know? Mm-hmm. So the rest of my test, I was so nervous because of that one thing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I better, you know, but yeah, it was sanitation. Like the moment that flew off, her eyes went straight to me to see how I was going to handle that situation. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you drop a comb.
Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how many times that I have gotten a client in, and she's just like, and if I drop a comb, I just leave it and grab another comb. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, thank you for not using that. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, my last stylist would just pick it off the ground and keep going. And I was just like, oh my God. What? Or like, you know, it's like, I think everybody has kind of been a little like creeped out by like, if you know, bring out a brush and it still has somebody else's hair in it. It's like, oh gosh, like creep, you know. Yeah. Like, yeah. But
what are you guys doing?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? That requires TDLR, and usually at a certain point, you know, TDLR is going to come in and they're gonna search.
In California, you get $500 fine if there's any kind of hair in your drawer where you have your clean tools.
Yes.
Like, and if they're not labeled correctly, clean and dirty, you're gonna get another $500. It's not even like it's a $500 fine.
Yes.
Like it's rough.
It's insane. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, if that happens to you once and
you're
hurts,
never going to do it again. Yeah.
Right? It's like when you're driving in a school zone or something, and then you get, you know, this $250 ticket because, hey, you could have hit a freaking kid. Yeah. You're going to learn that when you see those flashing lights, you're like, slow down.
You know what's another one of the things that I think people are not aware of, and they partially teach you in school, but not fully, when you're doing pedicures, because you have to, I mean, these are all the things you have to do for cosmetology license. The pedicure chairs, obviously they teach you how to disinfect them and clean them and everything, right? Mm-hmm. Does that actually happen when you go to a pedicure place?
I know. That's what I always wonder too.
You know, I always call them out.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
When if I see somebody's getting wet from the chair and they're just kind of like really quick, I was like, don't you have to put the quats in there and let it, you know, like soak?
Yeah.
And they kind of look at me. I said, I'm licensed.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and they clean it for me. Mm-hmm. But they don't normally do that.
Yeah.
So if you're getting pedicures and they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that if we get deregulated, it's just like, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. You get fungus on your toes.
Yeah.
No big deal.
I was even just talking about, oh God. Ugh. Like just fungus and toes, like in the same sentence. But I was just talking to somebody else, and it's like, if you're deregulated, you know, you can't even, because the license doesn't mean anything, right? No. So it doesn't mean that you had to put the license on your station. So, you know, for a second, I was just like, well, you know, if anything, you know, as a client, you can just always look for that license. Yeah. But if it's deregulated, like,
it's
you
not
don't
even gonna matter.
Yeah. So you
can
don't
you
know
even sue them.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea.
Would it even be illegal? You know?
It's
and
like,
you go back to like, all this shit with injectors too.
Yep.
You know?
Girl, I like literally, this is a different subject, but I had somebody come into my salon and they passed me a little flyer and they're like, oh, you can take like, I think it was like a
weekend course.
It was a weekend course, I think. A weekend course, and I can be Botox certified. And when I tell you, I have no business putting toxins into somebody's face. And I'm just
but why? You could just go for a weekend.
I can just go for a weekend and get certified. Like that's
what?
Absolutely.
That's like
freaking,
a medical practice thing. Like,
I mean, like I'd be like, Bell's pausing, like, people all over the place. I'd be like, you're welcome. Like, legit, I like literally thought about it because I was like, can I get Botox at cost? That would be amazing.
I think, when I've looked into that shit, that has been the reason why, mostly.
Yes.
Imagine, like, my freaking forehead would be so smooth 100% of the time. But then I'm like, what if I hit the wrong fucking nerve and Bell's palsy the shit out of myself?
Right. Oh my. Well, that's the whole thing is like, I don't know if you like watch the Instagrams or whatever, like the reels, but like somehow, Instagram knows that I'm like super into that stuff. Yeah. And then they also like suggest freaking facelifts all the time. Yeah. I'm like, excuse me, rude. Yeah. But I've already picked out the person who I want to do my facelift.
Dude, I've been looking into that shit too because I'm like, they look so youthful. Have you seen like there's one doctor, I don't know where he's at, but he keeps on popping up too, like with all the facelifts.
Oh, I probably know his name.
And it's like the girls, the ladies actually, because they're like 60 or 70 years old, and then once they start healing, they look so freaking young.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Dr. Nyack is like,
yeah,
he's legit. Yeah. But
$150,000.
Yes, I even looked up that too. It can be up to like $200,000, and I was just like, would it be worth it?
I know. I'm like, am I gonna have that much money?
Yeah.
Like when I, in 20 years,
yeah,
or in 10 years. I hope so. Cause
girl, like, there's been times where I like look over at my husband. I'm like, why don't you make more money? It's like, it's not on me. It's just my husband. I'm like, what? Like, I could be all like, yes, straight up tight and like snatched. That's what I want. But it's just,
oh my gosh,
it is absolutely crazy. Like, because it's like, but what I was saying is, it shows like the person's like, oh, don't do this dot because it goes here.
Yes.
But then do this dot and then it lifts up.
Yes.
And like the two dots are like, like
so
a millimeter. Yeah. I would just be,
like, oh shit, which dot was for what?
Yeah, exactly. I'd just be like, let's just put it all in. Let's see what happens.
No, I would be like, hold on, let me pull out my YouTube video where I learned.
Right, you've seen the reels where it's just like, do you mind if I use my like earbuds? And it's like, and the person's like, yeah, that's not a problem. It's like how to cut hair, like in the earbuds.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
imagine.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. Is just like the freaking YouTube like tutorial. I mean, and that's what's gonna happen.
Yes,
that is what's going to happen.
Like, be mad, guys. Like, be angry. Do something about it because it happened to our state already. It already happened.
Yeah. Yep. But what's stopping them from lowering more hours?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I heard hours before I was in beauty school, I think there were 1,700 or 1,800. Mm-hmm. So they've already been lowering it from, and in this state, in Iowa, I think they were at 2,000 at one point.
Yeah.
Because the legislative person said, oh, when we were lowering it from 2,000 to 1,500, we got the same kind of backlash. And what did it do? Nothing. I'm pretty sure it did a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure because I'm sure beauty school before you learned so much more than you do now. Yeah. So now imagine in 1,000 hours, like they're going to cut off sanitation. They're going to cut off a lot of shit. Well, so are they going to go lower?
Right. And that's the whole thing is that like sanitation. So many people come to me for color corrections, right? Yeah. Like that's a big part of my business. Chemicals, right? And, I've definitely gotten more educated on cuts. And so now I do all of it. But it is, and the best, the ones that go viral on my Instagram and TikTok are when I do the consultations of that.
Oh my God, I love those.
Yeah, where it's just like people are like, like this happened and this happened and this happened, and I'll explain to them why and like what we can do and what we can't do, and so that like kind of turns into some educational kind of thing.
Imagine if they don't know about henna.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Did you see that one? Yeah. So if anybody who doesn't know what henna does is that it is a metallic in the hair. So literally henna can lighten a little tiny bit and then there's no issues. But henna is so unpredictable. So there has been times where it has lightened and it's turned green. It has not lightened at all. And there has also been times where the foils will actually start smoking. So you have no idea.
And they get watery, right? Like a weird.
There is so much that it can and cannot do it, like and you have no idea. And this is what happens with box colors too, because box colors, they're constantly changing their ingredients to make it cheap, right?
Those $2.50 boxes,
right. And the thing is that, like, you know, the $2.50 boxes, I mean, you know, you can be doing that like 4 or 5 times and it works great. And then that, you know, 4th time they change that chemical and then something else happens. And then you come to us. And then what happens is that there's banding, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And you saved all that money.
And then they tell you that they haven't dyed their hair in a year.
Oh, girl. Yeah.
So all that is, plus it already faded out.
Yeah. Yep.
Bruh.
Like box color does not fade. Permanent color does not fade. Even demi, because demi, at least it's not ammoniated, but it still has peroxide in it, right? So that is still driving into the cuticle. So even if you don't see it, it's still in your hair and it's going to be affected by lightener. Yes. But I get these color corrections coming in and, you know, some of these are scary, and some of these cut corrections too, like people are just hacking away at people's hair, especially when it's like thick haired and stuff like that. And a lot of times I always say these are people who are licensed, right? But they go straight from beauty school into like a working salon, right? And then they're basically practicing on paying.
And I told you this, like, I wish I would have assisted.
Yeah, the more education, the better, right? And that is my whole thing. Like, more education, the better. So this is why I'm very passionate about this. But so, you know, a lot of times, you know, you think you freaking know it all, right? Like, where you're walking out of that beauty school and you're like, I just, like, you know, freaking did so much amazing stuff in that chair. And it's just like, girl, that mannequin head did not have opinions. She was not particular. She had virgin hair, right?
Oh my
and so
gosh,
there's no banding. You don't have to do color correction for toning, all that kind of stuff. And then they get somebody who comes in and, you know, they have finer pieces on the side and thicker pieces on the back and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, whether it's a cut or a color, you know, something goes wrong, right? And then that's who I see. Those are the people that come to me. And these are people who are licensed.
Yes.
Okay? These are people who went through basic training. So what's happening is that when we go through beauty school, they're never going to take away sanitation, which is great, right? But what's going to happen, and this is where clients should be upset about this, is that the more that they reduce those hours, let's say it's like 200 hours or 500 hours, it's only going to be about sanitation, right? So, or it's going to be like quick notes on sanitation. And so, but they won't have time to give you the basics because
not even hair cutting, like not even hair coloring,
so
not even chemical mixing.
Right. So your hair's going to get fucked up more, right?
No freaking color theory.
No color theory whatsoever. I mean, even
oh my
and
gosh.
This is what I'm talking about, like when you were talking about 1,000 hours, like the apprentices that I get from beauty school, they don't know color theory. They don't. And so I always say, like, all right, give me your formula. Like, what are you gonna? And you know, they give me a good guess. And I always say, like, you don't have to be right. I don't expect you to be right. Yeah. You know, this is like, we're gonna go more into depth with this. I think but they don't know that, like, yellow purple cancels out yellow, and they don't know that green cancels out red. You know, it is.
Wait, they're not teaching that anymore?
No. Or it's like such a small class that if you miss a day or you're late.
They made us buy a freaking color wheel.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, and
you're from bougie California, though.
Well, yeah, also from a fucking school that ripped everyone off and got closed down.
Shut up.
Yes, I just
Do you still have to pay?
No, so they so like last year, or the year before, my loans for that school finally got forgiven. And then this year, just at the beginning of this month, they just returned the money, my grants that were used for that. They put them back to where I could use them now for what I'm going to school for right now.
You know what's so interesting is that I had
Marinello Beauty.
Ooh, okay. Dropping names.
Oh yeah.
So
closed.
when I was in Denver, it was my first salon. There was this girl who she came in, she was so excited, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so blessed that my loans got forgiven because that's, school got discredited and like it shut down." And this should be upsetting to everybody, but I was just like, damn it for going to like an accredited,
right?
Freaking school.
Mine was accredited. It was like Marinello Beauty Schools. It was like very well known. It was a good school. Not every instructor was great, but I did have like for my senior, when I moved up to senior, like she was one of the best instructors, a color specialist, and she taught us a lot of the color wheel. It didn't make me a color specialist for sure. I still had to take more classes, but that school, they got caught for ripping like embezzling money type of thing. So they were getting student loans out on people who no longer attended, or like in my case, they took out a student loan. And then when I remember, I questioned it because when they came, I had to sign one of the checks.
Yeah.
And I remember they called me in, and there was more money on there than what was supposed to be. And when I said, well, don't I have money left over for? Oh, no, that's it. That was I was like, so I kind of questioned it.
Like, that's for like something else that,
And then they kind of like gave me some bullshit, and I was like, okay, whatever. Well, there was another student who didn't get student loans, and she had to sign papers, and we later found out that they had taken out, I think, like $20,000 in student loans under her name.
Yeah.
And then took all the grants that they could for her. And so it wasn't just our school that was doing it.
So they were applying grants for her. So
it was every fucking Marinello schools.
Oh,
especially the one. So it was it was, man. But finally, like all of us that went to Marinello, our student loans got forgiven. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? That's a blessing in disguise.
It was.
But thank goodness you got, education as far as sanitation.
Imagine
yeah.
But imagine like, I don't know, like obviously now I say don't go to any bougie schools, just go to a beauty school, period. It doesn't matter if they have a good name or not, because at the end of the day, you're going to learn the same thing at every school.
Right.
Which is sanitation, maybe color.
Yeah.
Some hair cutting.
Yeah.
Or maybe just how to blow dry hair. But whatever it is, you learn more once you're out.
Yes. And that's what it always is, right?
Yeah.
You always learn a lot more. You get better education. But the thing is that continual education, continuous education, whatever it is, what we do for continuous education is we're not going to a class with a celebrity Instagram stylist to show us how like long barber side lasts.
No.
We're going and we're getting the techniques, what's going to make blonding better, and
yes.
what this, blunt bob, and like how to use this razor or whatever. So all the classes that we're taking, that we're paying our money for, it's always going to be about hair cutting. It's not going to be about sanitation. So we need that.
Yes.
And then also the continuing education, which is interesting here. I will say this because, I've had to have like the continuous education from, from Illinois and from Colorado. But then here it's just like, you just have to like read, and it's basically, that's absolutely insane to me.
How is it in the other states? In California, you didn't even have to do that. I don't know if you do now.
So it's most states require it, but Illinois, at least at the time.
This year. I'm like, because I have to renew my license for California this year.
Oh yeah. At the time it was for Illinois, it was 2 to 4 hours of continuous education from an accredited school or from, but it was kind of like on the honor system until you got audited. So you were supposed to earn that, and then they would ask you the question when you're renewing it, and then you'd be like, click yes. But then if you get audited, and that you have to have proof for those. Colorado was the same, but then it was, like, did you pay for a class? Do you have the receipt? That kind of stuff. So it was more about hair.
Okay.
And then here, it's literally just the beauty school books, like online. And then you have to, and then you're supposed, and what's funny is that I actually read through all of it because I take that stuff seriously, but it gives you a certain amount of time that you have to read it. And I remember I had an hour left.
Yeah.
And I was just
because it has to be the exact, 3-4 hours?
Yeah, I think it was 4 hours. And I remember I was just I have an hour left. How did this happen? So I just kept wiggling my mouth and I was like, okay, do I read it again?
Yeah.
What it is. But I mean, here's the deal. And I'm not saying that I did this at all. But again, this should be worrisome for people, especially, and I don't know if they did this when they reduced the hours, but they literally it's just what you've learned in beauty school, and it's the same information, and they don't know if you're reading it or not. Exactly. You can literally go on it and watch a show.
Yes, and you just, not that I did this either. Yeah. But you could just let the timer run out as you're and then click next.
Right. So that's the scary thing is that, let's say it starts to get deregulated, and that's what it is. Are people actually reading it?
That sucks.
And reading it, and that's the whole thing is that reading it and actually practicing it and doing it physically is very different, right?
That's why I know in beauty school they told us don't try to find ways around it now, because you have to train your mind to always do it, rather than going around it, because then that's what you're going to do once you're actually behind a chair.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm telling you, it was my last instructor that was very the other ones didn't give a fuck. But that one, she was like, you have to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. And when she saw I was doing it the wrong way, it was because that's how we were getting taught at the beginning.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody's going to teach you the right way.
No.
Yeah. You have to have somebody who has that passion, like you, to be able to teach it the right way, to be able to help people to do things the right way. Yeah. And I think that's why you have such a good program when it comes to having assistants. Yeah. Because you teach them the way that is the right way, the way that they're eventually going to be able to make, a lot of money. Right. Because people are going to come to them because they're a copy of you.
Right. And that's the whole thing is that anybody who comes into my apprenticeship, I always say, this is not the only way, right? Yeah. And there might be a better way a little bit later because I don't know everything. And a hairstylist that knows everything is a dangerous hairstylist, right? Because once you know everything, you need to retire because it is a constantly evolving business. Seriously. So, I always say, I want you to learn my techniques because I have a wait list a mile long. So I want to take new clients, but I can't, but my books are too full. Yeah. So I want you to take a lot of my clients, but my clients aren't going to go to you if you don't know how to do my techniques. Exactly. Right? And then once you get them and you learn something else, or you have another technique and you talk to that client, then that's your client now. You can do whatever. So because that's the hard thing about, apprenticing or being an apprentice, assisting, all that kind of stuff is that, a lot of places they will, say this is the only way.
Oh, and it's not.
Yeah. And that is something that you need to make sure that, okay, it might not be the only way.
Yeah. The only things that you always have to remember that will always be the only way is your sanitation and the things that you can and can't do on scalp when it comes to the different diseases or the different things that you see on people's skin.
Yeah.
those will always be the same, which is why it's very important to learn all that.
Yes, exactly. And that's the basics. That is the fundamental blocks that we need. And then, all the continuous education can and should be more of this. But if we're deregulating that, then that goes away. And now we're just having shitty haircuts and then spreading infection.
So guys, look up what your legislation is, what's going on. Look at all the laws that they're trying to pass, all the regulations they're trying to get rid of. Like, really pay attention to that and figure out what it is that you can do in your state to be able to change that. Because I know, like I said, now, like, what can we do in Texas to bring back the hours to a higher amount? And at 1,000 hours, I think that there is, a good amount of education on sanitation. But what I'm scared of is that if they're lowering them now, what if they lower them like less than that? That's what's really scary. So we really need to be paying attention, and we need to have our ear to the ground when that kind of stuff. And like, I'm sorry, but screw the freaking people who think that 15-year-olds can do our job. No, that's, they could,
Yeah, it's important.
I forgot that legislator's name, but let me ask ChatGPT how to do your job, bro, and see how well that goes.
Right, exactly. I can just pick up my phone and be like, how to be a legislator, ma'am. Yeah. They'd be like, you mean a congressman? Yeah. Okay.
Congress.
Like Congress, maybe that's congressman. But it's not that easy.
No.
For anybody's profession. That's the whole thing.
Exactly. And if it were easy, then everybody would be freaking doing it. Like, try to go to beauty school. If you think, like, we don't need all that learning, go to beauty school and see if you could do it.
Girl, I will say this before, because I know you probably want to end this, but one of the things that always drove me mad were the commercials of like the vocational schools.
Oh my gosh.
Where like literally I would be watching TV and then it would be somebody who would be like, I used to flip burgers and now I make a living doing hair.
Oh my
gosh. I just went to, this technical institute and now look at me now. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, not everybody for one can be a hairstylist, because once you get into, because hairstyling, and this is what we're trying to talk about, right? Hairstyling is not just braiding and like,
there's
like
bugs.
playing with people's hair. There's bugs.
Do you know do you know how disappointing, like, because I used to think like beauty school was going to be so easy,
just
right?
applying each other's makeup.
Like, oh my gosh, it'll be so much fun. When they handed me books, I remember I kind of like, I looked to see if I was the only one making that expression. And I think I was. And I was like, what
and we're not talking about
this?
Like little pamphlets. We're talking about like
a big, and then you're a textbook and a workbook. And then you open it, there's freaking science. Yeah. There's anatomy. There is like regular like biology.
Yeah.
There's
like chemistry, biology.
I was like, I didn't sign up for this. I remember I was like, what the hell? Like, I did not sign up for this shit.
Yep.
Because I thought I was just going to learn to cut hair and color hair and do makeup.
Yeah, and you think you're just going to go in and, like, it's going to be all, like, fun
learning
and games.
all the layers of the, the skin. And I was like, wait, I thought I gave up nursing school. Like,
yeah. And it's and then that's the whole thing, is that, like, people get grossed out by dirty hair.
And you have to do pedicures.
You have to do
on
old people.
Yes, who walk in, like, and there would be old men with pretty bad feet that would walk in.
Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot from that. So I'm telling you, like, inch thick nails. It is. You gotta bring out the drill for that one. Mm-hmm. But like once you get on that floor, that's when you start getting those nails, like
and you realize
the old
what
man
it
nails
is that you want to do and what you don't.
The greasy ass hair. You get people coming in and
and you get people with lice sometimes.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing too, is a big part of continual education is that you get to charge more. Yeah. So you can control exactly what client sits in your chair, right? And I'm not saying, it's like I charge a good amount, but it's a fair amount. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to get to a point where I'm charging
$5,000.
Yeah, just for the fact that it attracts certain people that I don't want. So it is a control, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to sit in your chair, and who is going to want your services. So the more you know, and the more you're educated, and, you're not getting, fined on, the sanitation controls and stuff like that, like the better you can make money, right?
Yeah.
Or sued.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or sued. Because you will get, like, if you don't know your shit when it comes to the chemicals, if you cut someone the wrong way, if you don't ask the diabetic the diabetic question when which nobody ever does.
No.
Nobody ever does. I've never gotten asked.
No.
I remember I used to ask if I was a new client.
Yeah.
Are you diabetic? Are you, yeah. Because if you cut them or nick them the wrong way while you're doing a manicure or pedicure, they might not heal. Like, they get an infection. There's so many things. And
what people don't know who aren't licensed is that we actually have to carry malpractice insurance.
Yes.
Right? We just like doctors, right? So whether you realize it or not, because if you go into the suites, if you do booth rental, if you have your own business, you have to have malpractice insurance. If you're thinking, well, I don't have to have malpractice insurance, and you're working in a salon, that salon is insuring you for malpractice insurance, just in case you burn off somebody's scalp or do something that is considered malpractice. Now, right now, it's actually pretty inexpensive for us. Like, where I think I pay like $200 a year for my malpractice insurance.
You know why that is?
You say.
I'll say that's because we hardly have any incidents where we're constantly getting sued, because we know our shit, because we're regulated, and because we've learned what to do and what not to do.
Right. So if you are somebody who is supporting less hours and deregulation, what's going to happen is that you are going to be paying for it, whether you realize it or not, in your malpractice. And that's what's interesting too, is that I wonder if Sports Clips is really understanding that as well, because they're going to have to insure all of those stylists so much more, because there is going to be widespread infection.
Yeah. And that's that, guys.
Yep.
That is that.
Yep.
So really do what you can to figure this shit out, and for us not to get deregulated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on.
Yes.
This was like, I'm telling you, the moment I saw this, I was like, what? Like, I think we were driving, and my I was on my phone, and my husband's like, who are you, like, texting? I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure this, because I had told him what was going on.
Right.
I said, I'm trying to get Amy on. This is something that has to go on, like, ahead of any episodes that I have recorded.
Because it's important.
Yeah. I said, this is, like, it's so, I was frustrated, because I had showed him the video, and he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, so I have to record. I have to make sure Amy can do it. Like, that was it. And I was trying to move.
I was like, hold up. I'm going to move some clients.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We're going to make sure we get this message out.
Awesome. Yeah. It was so awesome. I thank you so much for working with me on that. And trying to get you in, sooner. Like I said, I know that you were the person to bring in so we could talk about this. So thank you again. And thank you guys. Where can they find you again?
So you can find me at Hair by Amy W, and that's on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes. So thank you again. And you guys can find me at BeautyBound TX on Instagram, BeautyBound on TikTok, and Beauty Pro Bookkeeping on Instagram. No TikTok for that, guys. And thank you guys. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.